Red. It's Clash.
Hello everyone, welcome back to Reddit Talks Clash, the podcast hosted by the moderators of r/Clash Clans. My name is Sam, or u/Red Recon. I'm joined today by the wonderful u/Frankman, or Lion, and Spencer. Frank, how are we doing today?
Doing great. I have been having a great time the last couple of weeks. I was on vacation with
Very
my family
nice.
2 weeks ago, and then wife and kids have been with her family for the last week. And so I've been actually streaming Clash of Clans for the first time since I had so much time alone.
Exciting.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. It's really weird changing my play habits from like logging on 10, 15, 20 times per day, but only like 5 to 10 minutes at a time to, how can I condense all of my gameplay into like 2 or 3 hours straight? And it's been really different. I've been trying a lot harder on all of my attacks with people watching.
When there's a camera on you, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so one of the wars that we did in particular ended up getting a clean 6-pack, planning it out on stream, talking about it with whoever was there, getting a little bit of advice, and then got like 6 out of 8 triples in Legends. So it was a hot day. The day after wasn't nearly as close.
Yeah, this is the way.
Doing great. Nice. What about you, Spencer?
Same old. I'm currently on spring break for school though, so that's a nice break.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Rock on, man. Any fun spring break plans? Just hanging out?
I just got back from a camping trip up in the Utah mountains.
Nice.
It was pretty fun, but yeah.
Oh, well, for anybody tuning in, if this is your first time here, we've got bad news for you.
Yeah,
but for anybody who's here, put in some questions into the chat, and we like to get to those by the end of the episodes. For anybody who is watching this live, of course, a lot of you watching or listening to this right now are listening to it on the pod afterwards, and we appreciate all of our listeners from everywhere. But yeah, if you guys have any questions for us about the game, or especially about the recent news in the updates that we'll start talking about here in a minute, feel free to let us know. But Sam, what are we talking about tonight?
So building on from what Lion said, if this is your first time here, it may very well be your last, as sadly Reddit have announced they're going to be pulling the plug on Reddit Talks. As disgraceful as it is, it's happening. I think I can't remember exactly the dates, but it's coming out very soon. I think it's end of March or either early April. But yeah, essentially this is going to be the last Reddit Talks podcast we do on the subreddit after going strong for over a year, which we've I think we've all really loved doing. It's going to be ending, but that does not mean it's the end everywhere. Well, it may be the end on Reddit, so we do not want to stop doing this because we love doing it. So we are currently, we haven't reached a final decision on what we're going to do, but it's going to be quite likely that we move to Discord and take full use of their Stages feature there. Still releasing podcasts on Spotify, on all your podcast platforms. That won't change. Yeah, we're hoping we can import our live medium onto the Discord server. If you're not in it, link is on our sidebar in the subreddits. We'll probably make a post announcing all this when we're fully set up and decide on what we want to do. But it's a sad day. Having to leave Reddit, because obviously, even though we can go to Discord and that is good, it's not on Reddit. We are the subreddit moderators. It's literally called Reddit Talks Clash, and it won't be on Reddit. So
yeah, it's definitely a bummer. We wouldn't have started this if it wasn't for Reddit Talks. Reddit announced that they were doing this. They rolled out like a beta version, and we actually got onto it pretty early. We were one of the first subreddits of any size to talk with the devs of Reddit Talks, and I think that was more Rick and Sam. I was on their Discord at the very beginning talking to a couple, but I think it was such a unique idea. Maybe not unique. I've heard of a few platforms that try to do something similar, but it really took advantage of the existing communities of Reddit. And so trying to get something off the ground of just a handful of guys talking about a video game can be pretty tough. But when there's already a user base of 500,000 subs that we've got on this channel, 533 right now, that are all excited about the game and ready to talk about it and excited about it, I think it just really gave another piece of content to a community, which is a plus, a very different type of content as well, which is a plus, and then any of the mod stuff behind the scenes, if that's interesting to you, gave you a really cool opportunity to hear what the subreddit looks like from behind the scenes. So I'm bummed that it's going away for sure. I think they said that they had a lot of costs associated with supporting it that they were planning on maintaining until they brought it in-house. I think it was like a third-party platform that they kind of used for the back-end technology for it. And then something changed, some guy quit, or who knows.
Yeah, went to Roblox or something like that.
Yeah. And so you can look into the the dark history behind it if you're actually interested. But it got to the point where they are still interested in setting this up as a permanent feature that they will host as themselves, but they're not going to be able to support it in the interim. And so that's probably going to be a couple years out before it makes a return, if it makes a return. And
so the cynical part of me doesn't think it's coming back.
Exactly.
But,
Yeah, I think reading between the lines, it's a bunch of corporate speak that makes you think maybe this will come back, and maybe they'll prove us wrong. Maybe it will, and then we'll be back on, Reddit and being hosted here live. But
yeah, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, but for most of you guys who listen to this as a podcast, it shouldn't change. I think we're planning on getting it out at around the same time, definitely the same frequency. And as Sam mentioned, Discord Stages is a very similar platform, and most people who are on Reddit these days are also on Discord. I haven't checked how many people are in the Clash of Clans official Discord server. Is there a way to check that?
Yeah, it's about
500,000.
Let me check. No, it's not close to that. It's over 100K.
It's 181,000.
181,000. So definitely different. I think the average Discord user is going to be much more comfortable getting onto a voice call or, Stages, which is similar. So I assume we'll have about the same live turnout with it that we did on Reddit Talks. But I agree with you, Sam. I think it's a little bit disappointing because ultimately, our stuff's all about Reddit. So it'll still be fine. It'll still be fun, but it'll look a little bit different.
Yeah, a new era will be coming to Reddit Talks Clash on Discord. But moving on to more fun stuff. Well, actually, before we get to the real good stuff, before we get to the builder-based stuff, let's discuss some of the more recent stuff, which is possibly less positive, depending on the spin of it. And that is the fact that Clash of Clans appears to have been banned from some countries / territories. So you probably remember back in March last year, Supercell announced they would be, for example, suspending their operations in Russia and also Belarus, and basically saying, right, they're gonna lose access to the game, they won't get the next update, blah blah. But it seemed like that wasn't enforced properly until last week, where players, now there seem to be a few countries that may have been affected, but the ones that are for definite are Russia and Iran, who are now permanently banned from the game. The accounts are permanently banned, but the players there cannot access the game. And they've stated the reasons are for sanctions, legal obligations. So not exactly Supercell taking a stance, more that it's impermissible with whatever sanctions Finland has or other organizations they're in. And it's a funny one. I don't want to turn this into an entire politics discussion, but it is a shame.
I thought you liked doing that.
I do, but I really do, and I would truthfully, I would love to, but I feel like everyone would try kill me, so I'm going to avoid it.
No, I agree with you. I think it's so one thing that you did say that I want to pick into for just a second is that it's not necessarily Supercell's taking a stance, and right, I agree with that. And in this message, but if you'll remember at the beginning of the Russia-Ukraine war, Supercell did take a pretty hard stance. They pledged, I think it was €1 million.
Yeah, it was, and they matched. I think they made a straight up donation and then they matched as well. So,
so they definitely have made stances before. It is interesting that I don't think they've done anything about, the availability of their game in those places until it looks like sanctions are making a part of it. But also because it brings in kind of the interesting discussion behind this of how much of this is a good thing happening. I won't say decision because it sounds like it's a little bit out of their hands, but how much of this is a positive, actions have consequences type of thing versus a bunch of, kids mostly who play Clash of Clans, who are getting affected by situations that they have no control over, really just making a real bummer of a situation for all the kids in, Belarus, Russia, Iran, Cuba, and North Korea.
Yeah, I mean, this is always like the consequential with any sanctions, really. I mean, obviously there are some sanctions which are pretty less ambiguous, like military sanctions, weapon
Yeah.
sanctions, whatever. But in terms of commercial sanctions like this, it's always a funny one, isn't it? Because obviously they're designed to make the local population annoyed at their governments, annoyed that they're not getting access to the things they used to, and then in theory it sparks regime change, right? That's the goal of it. But
Yep.
you do have to question the extent to how far they can work. For example, is restricting Clash of Clans from most likely a majority teenage player base that is not going to be revolting against their government realistically, and also probably is in a pretty dire situation. I don't want to generalize the populations of entire countries, but if you look at some of the examples, it's, I think, fair to say that their living standards are probably not great at the moment. And you do have to think, okay, is it really helping just further restricting these people of something which might provide, a nice little break from the normal crazy world?
Right. And I think it depends a little bit just on the nature of sanctions and what the goal is behind it, And so this is where it's starting to get to be a little bit political, and so we can kind of move on after this. But I think on one hand, you've got sanctions that are designed to cause something, and those are like the heavy economic ones where you're either creating food or energy shortages, and like it's not supposed to be sustainable. And then you have sanctions that are like annoyances, like you were talking about public happiness being targeted by it. And so if you're looking at like the choice between the two when you are applying sanctions, it's always, I don't know, kinder. I don't know what the right word is, but, getting rid of a video game isn't going to ruin anybody's life. It'll be super annoying and a huge bummer. But like everybody can live without Clash of Clans as much as some of us play it for so many hours a day. So like on one hand, at least like the bright side is that nobody's being harmed by this sanction in particular. But it definitely is a bummer, and it'll be interesting for those player bases what happens whenever this is all over, if they just get like 2 years worth of content like all at once, or how they would plan to roll that out, or if they get lumped into a second server, kind of like China. Who knows what it'll look like in time, and I think that's going to be more interesting.
We have no idea when these sanctions might end, so it's almost impossible to kind of speculate on what it might look like eventually, because for all we know, they could be banned indefinitely. So that's a bummer.
But, for anybody who does want to read about it, our Royal Champion Bot 2, sorry, singular, made a post about it. Spencer stickied that in the top comment of our talk, and it lists out the countries. It is Belarus, Russia, Iran, Cuba, North Korea. There's a question about Syria, and then Vietnam and China are scratched out as allegedly and not likely being affected by it, but for some reason being included into the initial overview. So
cool stuff that was announced in the last 2 weeks, thing about a week ago, is more builder-based stuff. Supercell is continuing to feed us information in drips and drabs to keep us, at the edge of our seats, waiting for the builder-based revamp. And I think it's fair to say that we got quite a bit of detail related stuff. So do you want to give us a run through?
Oh, okay, yeah, that's smart. We should definitely start with the run through. Anybody following along live, we've got Spencer's pinned comment has builder base 2, attacking, defending, and builders.
Should we start with the attacking, defending bit first, and we can look at the auto changes later?
Yeah, so attacking and defending are, as always, the primary method of gaining loot, but it's changed now so that you get gold when you attack. And depending on how many stars you get, you'll get more or less gold. And then you get elixir when you defend. This is an entirely unique component to the game. There's no other area of the game where you get loot from defenses. In normal defenses in the main village, you get trophies if somebody fails. But other than that, that's about it. But now in builder base, when you defend, you get elixir, and you get more elixir if you have a better defense. Kind of interesting. I don't know if I like it, I'll be honest. Curious to see what you think.
Yeah, I I don't know. I think I'm going to have to literally have it in my hands and play with it for about 2 weeks before I can make a verdict. Because on
Yeah.
one hand, like, it's kind of cool, right? It's a big diversion from the typical way we've seen loot being gained, even though Clan Capital, Builder Base, and Home Village all have slightly different methods of gaining loot. Ultimately, it is you do an attack and
Yeah.
you get loot from it.
It's interesting. So I'm looking at the actual blog article. There's a link to a Reddit post where somebody summarizes the changes, and that's super helpful for a TLDR.
Mm,
But then the
yeah.
actual long blog post describes it, and it says this. What about Builder Elixir? I hear you ask. Well, you earn that from your defenses. For every attack you do, you'll receive a defense. So you have to attack in order to get a defense. It says these will stay balanced
Right,
no
yeah.
matter how much you attack. Defenses can happen even when you're online. In a defense, you're awarded for every star your opponent doesn't manage to get. So if they get 2 stars, you'll be awarded 1 star. It's a balancing game, and so the numbers are really going to make the difference. But I feel like at high levels of gameplay, you're just going to get like no elixir, and maybe your base is already maxed at that point, so it doesn't matter. But it's super weird to have 1 out of 2 resource components just entirely out of your hands of how you can farm it.
Yeah, I think the possibly glaring issue with this, right, is that builder-based defense is a really whack thing. At least at Builder Hall 9, the kind of strategy is put all your defenses in a huge clump just to
Yeah.
kill things, and it works, right?
Yeah, it
Because
does.
defense isn't really but attacking and defense is not really properly balanced, right? If you're up at 5,000 trophies, you'll probably never see a 3-star. I have not got a 3-star in Builder Base since being Builder Hall 9 in
Right.
probably over a year, right? And I think that I'm now concerned that they are not going to address this problem because of this loot system, right? Because this loot system requires people to be failing, right? And that would happen anyway. Yeah, that happens
Right.
in Home Village. People fail, of course they do. But I'm now a bit worried that this is so built off people failing. They don't want people getting 3-stars, so they need people getting elixir. That um, that it then leads them thinking, oh, well, we don't need to balance defense. We don't need to worry about the fact that the base building meta is pretty much non-existent. It is just a clump, right? And that worries me slightly that they're just kind of pushing that to the side and using this loot system as a way to go, it's all intentional. You're meant to be shit at
Yeah.
attacking. So I
Yeah.
think
So
it's
that's
novel,
fine.
but
And so this is like more of a philosophical debate in the first place of just like how do you prefer the meta to be? And you'll hear a lot of different arguments in like talking about the main base right now, because attackers and just the casual player love 3-star metas, because if you can get a 3-star, it feels really nice.
yeah.
But at the actual highest level of the game, people love 2-star metas because that's when you can actually see skill expression. If
Hmm.
getting a triple is super rare, then it makes the game feel super like worthwhile. You get that big dopamine hit whenever you do get a triple. And I think from an actual competitive standpoint, that is the preference. But Supercell's been pretty vocal about Town Hall 15 because it's the hardest town hall that we've had in a while, and numbers are down in terms of who's still playing the game. There's like some
Do we know
level.
that?
Well, I don't know if we know that officially. I think that's been the rumor, and it definitely anecdotally feels like just less people are playing at Town Hall 15 because there is a real part of like it gets frustrating when you can't triple, and I think that's where Builder
Right.
Base has been, and so if that's where they continue to balance Builder Base, then I don't think anyone's going to quit the game if it's difficult, especially because that's in line with how it has been. But it's just interesting, especially now that loot is tied to it, that it gets from less of a philosophical debate of like, what do we prefer as a company and as a player base, and more about like, how do we balance the economy of the game now that
Yeah.
it's also tied into the strategy of the game.
And speaking of loot, I think it's also definitely worth mentioning that leagues are getting added to Builder Base, similar
Yeah.
to how we have, Champion, Masters, Legends, Titans, blah, blah, blah. And that is going to be directly tied to the loot you are rewarded from your defenses and your attacks. So the higher league, the more loot you're going to get, which I also think is quite interesting because obviously at the home village, there are different leagues for preferred loot. If you're farming, you're probably in Masters or Crystal, blah, blah,
Right.
blah. But here, you push to get literally objectively better loot, right? There's no kind of messing around there. You will get better loot the higher you go. I can't even remember how the loot system works these days. Is it based off your builder haul? Genuinely, I can't remember.
Yeah, I can answer that for you guys.
Oh,
There's
yeah,
actually 39 leagues that are already existing in Builder Base right now.
That's what I thought.
They're just
I thought there were
completely
already leagues.
unnamed. And so I think it's about every 500 trophies. So whenever you cross over to the next one, your loot just goes up for every
Right.
win that you get.
Mhm.
Genuinely, I could not remember.
So it sounds like
because-
the loot component is going to be similar, just
Yeah,
encouraging you to get higher up, and you'll get more of it.
Now, what is hopefully going to encourage people to expand their base a little bit more is the fact that they are introducing a permanent second builder for Builder Base. So, as I'm sure many of you know right now, when you get to Builder Hall 9, you can complete a series of 3 challenges to unlock the Auto bots. And this also,
4?
I think it's 3, is it not? It's level 18 cannon carts,
6.
max level Tesla, 6.
6? It's not
Wait,
6.
Wait, what was the question? Sorry.
How many different challenges are there to
Oh,
complete?
it's
to get
4
auto?
right now.
Yeah,
Is
it's
it?
4.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
I always
it's
thought it was
Master
3.
Builder, it's
Yeah.
Cannon Carts, it's Mega Tesla, and it's
See?
what's
See?
the fourth one?
It's 4. I know
See?
it's 4.
Yeah,
look
who's
it
in
up
the
real quick.
chat? Who can tell us what the fourth thing is?
Let's see.
Is
I'm
it-
No, it's
watching.
not
it's the
4.
multi.
Builder Hall
multi-motor.
9. Builder Hall 9.
Yeah, that
Oh, is
doesn't
Builder Hall
count.
9?
And you
one
must
of it?
have 3 gear ups in the home village. Cannon Cart and Mega Tesla. That's it.
Oh,
I,
okay.
I think I'm right. I'm counting it
Three
as, sorry.
I actually think you're right too, Sam. If that's what it is,
yeah.
I'll call it 3.
It's 4.
It's not, because the max level is level 4, but you get level 1 just by building it. So
Well,
it's
if you go to an unfinished auto hut, like we're currently upgrading one, it'll show you the 4 little squares at the bottom. So I was going off of that.
Okay. Well, we can agree to disagree here. But yeah, so for those who don't know, obviously you can get auto by completing either 3 or 4 challenges, and that gives you access to an entire other builder, which you can choose to either have in your main village or in your builder base. So while technically you can have 2 builder base builders as of right now, no one does that, right? No one is using their second builder in builder base. It is your 6th builder on your home village, because why on earth would you ever choose the other option?
For just a second, I put my second one over there when I was max Town Hall 14, and I didn't have my Builder Hall maxed yet.
That's reasonable.
It's
but
the
in
battle
that,
machine.
That's about it.
Yeah, in that very rare exception, no one is doing that, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But now there is going to be a permanent second builder, which is going to be Otto. The master builder is going to stay at the builder base, so players at Builder Hall 6 will have 2 builders available to keep working on upgrades. So that's important to note. The Otto is now unlocked at Builder Hall 6 instead of 9, but it's not as this transferable builder, from what I can tell.
Right,
It's going to be
in.
this permanent second builder base builder. And then they've also announced that at Builder Hall 9, they're going to unlock a permanent 6 builder for the home village. So they're not doing this swippy swappy nonsense. They're going, okay, you're going to have 2 builders at builder base, and you can also have your 6th at the home village, which net positive, right? You can now have 2 builders at builder base, and in theory, everything gets done 2 times quicker, which is huge, right? Because having 1 builder, it's just rubbish. It's really
one
rubbish.
builder sucks, because especially if you just like start to get rid of a tree and you don't think about it, then you're stuck for 30 seconds. And then if you try to upgrade something and then you want to get rid of a tree, you're in even worse luck. They cited in the thing that in their blog that they had a hard time balancing around being able to swap in between bases. And I don't really see how that's a balancing issue from the game standpoint, because you're still dealing with the problem of people who totally ignore Builder Hall are going to not have as many builders as people who play it, or they'll have 1 less. And so you still have that kind of balancing issue where you realize that some players are going to have 6 builders and some are going to have 5. I think obviously, like you're saying, the end product is going to be a buff to everybody.
Yeah.
You just get 1 more builder, and while they're permanently fixed, getting 2 in builder base and 6 in the main village is going to be just functionally 1 more than we already have. I'm really curious how they're going to roll it out, because what happens if you're I guess if you've got auto right now, then you're already
You
builder hall
keep
9,
it.
right? Yeah, so there should be no scenario where somebody goes from having the 6th builder in their main village to no longer having
No,
the
I
6th
think
builder in their main
that's
village.
impossible. So,
Right.
kind of linking to that. Well, firstly, I'd like to correct the record here. Spencer has kindly provided screenshots proving that it is 4 quests because I completely forgot about Battle Machine
Well, yeah, but
level
we were saying
30.
the gear ups don't count.
No,
I thought that's what we were
were
saying.
we? Oh, well,
That's
I
what I
wasn't.
was saying. Yeah, I knew the battle
well,
machine was part of it.
I was just wrong. So correcting the record there. But linking to quests, the quests are changing. So those quests are not going to be what is going forward. That will not be what unlocks you the 6th builder base. They didn't give us really any details apart from some vague wording of what this quest would be, but they said they would be more general and flexible, but of similar difficulty. So
Yeah.
if you can unpick that and figure out whatever the hell that means, then by all means, please
No,
do.
so I'm actually super excited about this change because I think it was kind of contrived in the first place that they picked seemingly a random defense. Like, it was a good one, but if you're picking like what's the strongest defense in builder base, I think the only answer is the lava launcher.
I disagree. But
Maybe, but that's part of the debate behind it.
Yeah.
Why pick the Mega Tesla if
absolutely.
other than compared to other defenses? I get the Master Builder, and I think it makes sense to tie his level to something.
Battle Machine.
Yeah, Battle Machine,
Yeah.
who is piloted by the Master Builder, was what
Oh,
was
of
what I was
course. Yeah,
meaning.
gotcha.
Because he's also the one making the builders that you're getting, and so it makes sense to have the Battle Machine level as some component of it. I guess if you're really getting into the lore, it is the machine and not the builder, so whatever. But heroes are a huge part of the game, and everybody understands why. And picking one troop, especially the cannon cart, just felt random.
Yeah.
So I hope they get rid of that random feeling while still having it be attached to progress.
I think their whole problem, which they correctly realized, was that they almost forced a style of play. I mean, the reason cannon carts and giants is such a popular strategy. I mean, of course it's good, but also cannon carts is what people have maxed first, right?
Yeah,
so
exactly.
it forces a play style, which is quite weird. So I am glad to see that getting hopefully rejigged a little, so people aren't always shoehorned into this play style.
Yeah. Another thing I do want to point out is they acknowledge that the current tasks not necessarily require, but it causes a majority of the player base to rush to Builder Hall 9. And so the meta for like all of Builder base is all rush Builder Hall 9s just so they could hurry up and max all their stuff that they need for auto.
Right.
And so with the new generic tasks, we don't know what they are, but I'm guessing something like generic, like 200 wins in the versus battles or something like that, or specific trophy range or gear ups, which I think is a huge plus.
Yeah, so that wouldn't be a bad idea if it was like number of attacks completed or maybe like a certain league to get into. They usually, now that I'm trying to think about it, I don't think anything is really gated behind skill at any other part of the game, and so that'd be kind of cool. But yeah, either way, I'm excited about it. I think people are still going to rush straight to Builder Hall 9 since you have to be 9 to get the home village builder. So I think we're still going to see a lot of rushed bases, but maybe if the progress was somehow like your overall war weight, they don't do war obviously in Builder Hall, but like the weight of your base had to hit a certain point. And I don't know how you communicate that to somebody playing the game. Like, your average defense has to be so strong.
Yeah, that could be a finicky measure to understand.
Yeah, but I could see it done with maybe like a progress bar, and then as you upgrade things defensively, you can see the progress bar move along. Something. But as long as it's more even than just a random offense and a random defense, I think people will be happy.
Should we have a little look at the questions we've got from the chat so far? Just kind of break things up a little.
Yeah, we've had some good ones for sure.
The first one is weirdly you've already answered, Franco. I don't know if you read it and tried to include it, or you are just incredibly good. But
no, I don't read.
You don't read, can't read yet. So this is from u/Gigby. 1464, and they
Yeah, but
asked what would happen if your 6 builder is doing an upgrade when the update comes out. Will the 6 builder be moved to builder list permanently? Does the upgrade finish? So I think we've kind of gone over that, right? I think the assumption is that whatever this builder is that was going to replace the master builder, that's just going to take over, right? So if you already got the master builder, you've got it working away in your home village, I don't think you have to worry about it just bumming off, right?
Yeah. So I think if it's doing an upgrade in your main village, that's 100% true. I'm trying to think if you've got it. No, because you would in theory get both. I guess it depends on what the other criteria are.
I think what they're going to do is anyone who's got auto unlock now is going to automatically get this quote unquote third builder, if you will, right? I think they're not going to force people who've already got it to complete more challenges, because I think that will just piss people off, to be quite frank.
Well, I don't know, because they did say that part of their goal was to have the more well-rounded progress that unlocks the extra builders.
Right,
And
but then,
let's say somebody's only done the 4 things that it takes to get the current 5th builder, 6th builder in the main village. Maybe there's a world where they don't hit the criteria, and then it's an issue, and I don't know what that happens. But I feel like if that's the case, then you have to set the bar like at or slightly lower, or you just grandfather in older accounts.
Yeah, I just cannot imagine they're gonna rip the 6 builder out of people's hands while mid upgrade or something, or even at all with that. I can't see that happening, to be completely honest.
They're pretty generous about that kind of thing. I'm trying to think of a comparable thing that's happened in the history of the game, and I feel like
I mean, do you remember when there was the glitch where people were just getting the auto hut without completing the challenges?
Yeah, I don't think they were mad about that.
They were mad, but did they ever reverse it? I don't think they did.
That's a good point. I don't know if they could. There was one where people got unlimited loot from a loot cart that kept maxing, and people maxed their walls, and they actually went in and figured out like the number of people who did that.
I remember that.
Yeah, and they did it reversed that. So I don't know. Surely with something like this though, they'd be generous about it.
No, exactly, especially because they know people have worked towards challenges already. I really struggle to believe they just rip it out of people's hands.
Yeah.
But yeah, other question was from u/entire_detective 2118, and their question was, do you guys think there'll ever be a clan capital esports scene? Now, weirdly enough, I did write an entire post about this about a year ago. I think it will be now. So do you guys mind if I
let me see it?
Yeah, I'll send the link in the Discord.
While you're pulling that up, I'm gonna say no. Just because I think the way that Clan Capital has turned out is that it really rewards volume of attacks more than specific like skill-based attacks. If you made an esports scene with it, then you'd have to have like a set number of people. So call it a 5v5 because that's what they do for the main game, and then see how many villages, or like if they can get through a single village with 5 people and 6 attacks. But I can't imagine that being a super compelling visual, and a big part of esports is is this fun to watch? And so off the top of my head, those are my thoughts. But Sam, where's your year-old esports article?
It was my year-old hypothesis, which I haven't really changed my opinion on, though that's mainly because I haven't thought about it for 10 months, to be completely honest. But essentially, my answer is yes, but no, and I'll explain here. I think in its current state, no. Right, it physically cannot work for esports, right? Because it's not a proper clan v clan kind of thing. You essentially, unless you run out of attacks, you cannot fail against a base, right? And if you cannot fail, that doesn't work, right? There's not proper head-to-head in its current state. It doesn't work. But what Clan Capital does excel is the teamwork and the fact that there is no barrier of entry to most town halls, right? Let me expand on this here. So the first point about the fact that it's more inclusive, I mean, that's obvious, right? You can have multiple people attacking one base. I know this doesn't really play out in reality. But in theory, you can have multiple people saying, okay, I'm going to place these troops here and drop a spell there, so the next person can put their stuff there and do what. Okay, that's not exactly how it goes these days, but that was the idea, right? Because I think the problem with Clash of Clans esports as of right now is, of course, it's a team thing, right? It's a clan versus clan, but ultimately it's actually a series of 5 mini 1v1s, right? Because there's no actual clan collaboration. I mean, I'm sure they help each other planning or whatever, but in the actual gameplay, it's 1v1s. The clan isn't actually contributing. And I think that is where Clan Capital has the potential to be great, because it has the potential of allowing the clan to actually attack together, right? And that's huge. And I think the fact that also Clan Capital has a load of different types of defenses and kind of a different way, different play style could combat the fact that I think a lot of people see Clash of Clans esports as boring because a lot of the same attacks are used every single time. Now, obviously, this requires a huge rework, right? Because attacks in Clan Capital are spammy right now, and the fact that I think they all come in groups, it forces this spammy attitude. It's less precise. The fact that you have to place a clump of troops every time. So I want to make completely
I'm trying to think
clear,
if there's a single not spam army I have ever used in
I don't
Clan
think there
Capital.
is.
Yeah, I don't think so.
And I think the whole squad system presents a huge issue because it's not skilled enough. Like currently, there is not enough skill expression in Clan Capital, but I think it has that potential to involve the team. And I think also the barrier of entry part is really huge because currently to compete in Clash of Clans esports, you have to be the max town hall, right?
Yeah.
Essentially, or otherwise you have no chance.
Yeah,
Or
that is a pretty big barrier.
You're not even allowed to enter any competition if you're not the max town hall, and if you're not maxed, that just disadvantages you, right? And that takes years. It takes years to get to that point, and you don't incentivize people to get into Clash of Clans esports by saying, right, if you play this game non-stop for 3 years, then you can get into it.
Yeah,
But Clan Capital,
spending a minimum of $5 a month.
Clan Capital, you get to Town Hall. Is it 6? You can get Clan Capital, or am I thinking of? Yeah. So Town Hall 6, that takes you what, 2 weeks now? It's so quick.
Yeah, really not long.
You get there, and then you could have access to an entirely max Clan Capital, and then that barrier of entry, it's gone. And I think that would make esports way more accessible if regular people could watch it and think, I want to get involved in that, instead of thinking, oh, I can in 2 years. That's never happening. They think, oh, okay, I'm going to try to scout out a good clan. Better infrastructure can be created for recruitment. I don't know here. Okay, I'm just spitballing. But then that barrier of entry is gone. Now, like I said, there are huge issues in Clan Capital, and in its current form, it cannot work for esports. So I would never expect anything in at least 1-2 years, right? But I think the potential is there. I think that there are unique aspects to it which encourage more teamwork, lower the barrier of entry. I think that is huge problems in Clash of Clans esports right now. So my summarized answer to the question is yes, it could work, but in its current form, it has no chance. I don't know if you want to.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting. I haven't thought about that before. The barrier to entry point. I have about the main village and perhaps that being a reason why Clash of Clans esports hasn't taken off more. But the idea that Clan Capital has a much higher potential because there are a lot more people who would be interested in it. I think it depends on how you see the funnel. If the funnel is the number of people that play Clash of Clans are, the potential viewers to the esport, then you've got a huge potential audience for it. But if you're looking at the number of people who already view Clash of Clans esports, and then you're funneling from there into the ones who'd be interested in a, Clan Capital esport, which unfortunately I think is what would happen. I think you wouldn't really pull in many unique viewers to Clan Capital. I think you would be pulling in the crowd that already watches it. And part of your post, I was skimming through it while you were talking, highlights the problem that nobody cares about Clash of Clans esports. And,
it's true. And
you can have a bunch of different reasons for that. I like it. I think it's interesting, but just numbers wise, the number of people who play this game and compare that proportionally to the number of people who watch other esports, and it's just the audience for Clash of Clans esports is low by every
Right.
metric.
And that is why I think in its current form it can't work. 'Cause I think Clan Capital right now, even if you ignore the fact that it just physically cannot work due to the format of how attacks work, how attacking works, I think watching Clan Capital attack is the most deathly boring thing ever, right? And I would never wish it
Well, and to
on
your
anyone
point,
in a million years.
what are some of the best esports out there? Things like League of Legends, I don't know, CSGO, Valorant, Call of Duty. You get a bunch of games that are very low barrier to entry. Like they're free, and as soon as
Yeah.
you're playing, you basically have access to all of the stuff. But it's also incredibly high skill expression. And so that's why people like to watch the esport, because they could play exactly like that, but they don't because it's hard. And so
And
you
I think
watch the
the
esport almost
same.
like a guide. Yeah.
I think the same is sort of transferable to Clash of Clans. I mean, you see people do these great lalos on esports, and you think, oh yeah,
Yeah.
I
Yeah, it
can
kind
do
of can
that,
be, but
and you kind
but
of
to your
can, you
point, like the
can't.
barrier to entry for Clash of Clans is just so high,
It's
and then the
ridiculous.
game modes where it's low, like Clan Capital, there's
It's
not that
boring.
much skill expression.
Mm.
Even taking the interest aside, because everyone will find different things interesting, it's just the skill expression isn't that
Yeah,
high, and so until there's something that's very low barrier to entry, very high skill expression in the game, I think it'll be kind of tough. But Supercell kind of has that problem with all of its games because they introduce like the really grindy component to it. I think that's part of why Clash Royale esports never really took off, is that it can be interesting to watch and the barrier to entry is kind of low, but to actually get to a maxed like deck, it does take quite a long time. Same thing with Brawl Stars. Like you get a bunch of brawlers at first, but then it also takes forever to get the ones that are cool and actually good, and then takes a ton of coins and now PowerPoints to upgrade your stuff to max. So there's always the grindy component to Clash of Clans, which is going to make it a little bit tough from an esports standpoint. But it's that exact same grinding component that has made it the most successful video game company for
yeah.
mobile phones. That's
I
what
mean,
gets you to log in every
look at
day.
this way. Clash of Clans, it's not most Supercell games, like you said, it's not built for esports, right? They're not. But I still think esports are fun to watch. It is a shame how they don't really seem to be compatible, despite in theory they both seem to be able to exist independently, but then they don't seem to work together. And it is a shame, and that is why I did make this whole post. So I was kind of trying to brainstorm how could we get Clash Clans esports to work. And while I think my solution was not a good, well, it's not an appropriate solution, as Supercell would need to overhaul Clan Capital a lot. But I think it's an interesting debate about how Clash Clans esports, compare it to the successful ones like you said, Fortnite, League of Legends, Valorant, CSGO, whatever you have. People love them because they could do that. They can then pick up Valorant, they can download it for free, and they can think, oh yeah, I can flick onto people's heads like that. And no, you can't. But
Yeah.
you can think you can.
Yeah.
And that's
But
the whole appeal to it.
physically, it's possible. Yeah.
Because it feels like, oh yeah, I can grind the ranks, I can get really good, and I can be them, right? It will take me time. It doesn't feel like it's going to take you time because you feel like you're in control of your time. But
Yeah.
Clash Clans, you're not. And I think it's
Yeah, maybe if there
hugely
was some expansion of the single player mode, like they've got a really good like that practice tool that gives you practice attacks at your town hall. Maybe if something like that was unlocked, and I don't know, some combination of that in the Goblin map, if anybody building an account could have access to like a max Town Hall 15 army and just like a few model max Town Hall 15 bases or some kind of like friendly challenge world where they could jump into. And just like try it out. Maybe that could be something, but either way, we should probably get through a few of the other questions that they've got here.
Yeah, let's have a look. So,
Fun Border 5124 says biggest problem with builder base is funneling. Really hard to do. Will this get better in 2.0? I don't know, but I'm gonna guess no.
Yeah,
I
I'm
think
with
they're
that one.
attached to the idea of clumping troops, and when you only have like so many slots of troops and they are big clumps, then you're either investing way too much into a funnel or you're just spamming an entire side of the base. So who knows? But I'm not optimistic.
Yeah, I think this question from GB again, 1464 is interesting. They ask, could guard posts maybe get a rework. Maybe having the ability to switch out what troops defend. I'm
That would
gonna
be
say no.
cool.
I'm gonna say no. I'm
Yeah,
gonna say no purely
probably not.
because that makes it just a glorified clan castle, right? And I
Yeah,
think the whole,
there's already a
but
clan castle in the game. It's a familiar mechanic, and it's one that
yeah,
people already know how to like put some skill expression into, and so I could see it working out well.
possibly. But I just wonder. It depends how different they want to keep the two villages, right? And I think, giving that option, the guard post just becomes a CC. And again, would be interesting to see how some of these builder-based exclusive troops would act in that sort of scenario.
So
I'm not
I
saying it's a
think
bad idea. I'm
I think
just
the big difference between that and a clan castle, well, two differences. One being that a guard post has significantly lower housing space, so I think it's
right.
gonna,
Sure.
the way that it affects how you attack is gonna be a bit smaller, but you get to see the troops right off the bat, and so I think it would be really cool if you get X number of troops to choose from, almost like defensive pets. Like that would be kind of cool.
Hmm.
But then an attacker gets to see that, and especially in builder base, the only mechanic that I love in builder base that I wish they would somehow implement into the main game is the ability to change your army after you see the base. Like I think that's awesome, and so I'm a fan of bases being more specific from one another, and any kind of like defensive skill expression that you can give to a
Right.
base
Yeah.
builder, I think is great, because the more different bases are, the more valuable knowledge of like this attack versus this attack in builder base is going to be.
Yeah.
So I think it'd
Yeah.
be cool. Anything you
I
could
think. I think.
implement would be neat.
I think I'm with you a bit more now. I think you've swayed me. Yeah, no, I agree. So next question is from u/range_formal, and they ask, do you think separating builder gold and elixir could cause people to have more builder gold and less builder elixir, since most players can 2-star most bases? This is my biggest worry so far. What do we think, Frank?
I think not if you're me. I get on builder base once a month during clan games, and I just spam 1-stars over and over and over until I get my clan games challenges done. So if you're me, you'll get more elixir than gold probably. I think if you actually care and you're really like applying yourself and trying your best, then yeah, I think
No,
if
we
you're
don't.
grinding, you'll get more gold.
We don't know if the number of, for example, that 1-star in defense is 500,000 builder elixir, for example, that 1-star on offense is also 500,000 builder gold. We don't
Yeah.
know they're going to be balanced equally, so that actually might not end up being a problem, depending on how they decide to balance it. I mean, this is pure speculation, and maybe they will screw us, and maybe they will be equal amounts. And honestly, I could see that happening very easily, but we don't know how it's going to be balanced, so I wouldn't assume that for definite just yet.
It also depends a lot on trophies and how quickly it will take for you to get into the appropriate trophy league for your skill set, because once you're at that league that you belong in, then you're going to get some average 2-stars, and then you're going to defend average 2-stars unless somebody is like really working their way up the trophy ladder or down it. I think everyone's going to be frustrated the first few weeks, especially if they do like a hard trophy reset on everybody. And I don't know if they're going to do that. Like surely they're not going to knock everybody down to 0.
I didn't think about that, but now,
Yeah,
now
but I don't know
I'm
what they're gonna do.
no.
I'm trying to think for Operation Blue Skies when they came out with the new Legends League, they just dropped everybody above 5,000 to 5,000, and then on that day you could jump into Legends. And
I mean
so
that makes sense, right? Because that's how it works at the start of every open season. Anyway.
yeah, so I think there'll be a lot of frustration in the first couple weeks when people are either dropping trophies a lot to max out their base, or really like grinding through it for the first time in a long time, and getting a ton of triples on their way up the ladder. But once you play maybe 20 attacks, and then it's been a few weeks after the update, I think you'll be at a pretty comfortable league where you are at people of a similar skill set than you.
Yeah. I'm noticing quite quickly approaching the time we might wrap up. But before we get there,
You're right.
Spencer, would you like to tell us about the current event that is being hosted?
Yeah, so every month we do one event for the Reddit, and this month we're doing a war event, our first war event since October, I think, and it's called the tenacious 10 war event, kind of playing off the in-game event, the Sensational 7, where they require you to use the 7 female troops in the game. And this time we're including the 3 other super troops, the Super Archer, Super Valkyrie, and Super Witch, where you have to build your army off of all 10 of those troops. And we look forward to it. Signups do close tonight. So if you are interested in participating, we do have a pinned post on it on the top of our Reddit. And that's about it.
Yeah, when is the event? Just to check.
The war itself is going to be on the 24th, and we're going to launch on the 23rd.
Awesome. And is there any town hall requirements?
All town halls are open to sign up, but no guarantee that you'll participate.
So I can't bring my 50 town 2 accounts to try and be in 10 minutes.
You can sign them up.
No, well, I'll give it a try. I mean, if I sign a load up, then we can balance them. That'll be a great war. Yeah. I can use lots of archers. It'll be great. Yeah, that's awesome. Wow, excited about that. I haven't actually signed up, but now I want to do something. I want to race to do it. I think we got time to answer the final question we've got here, which is from u/ActGroundbreaking94, and they essentially ask whether it's a good idea for Supercell to add a feature where the leader or co-leader is allowed to delete war CCs and refill them. Because obviously, I'm sure you've all been in a situation where you fill a war CC and go, that is a complete wrong thing. And now I had to try harass that person to get them online and to delete their war CC.
This already exists.
What? Does it?
Are you guys trolling? Yeah, this is already a feature in war CCs. Co-leaders and leaders can hop in, and I think they can delete troop by troop. They can't delete specific numbers of troops, and that's been like something.
That's the one. Yes. Yeah.
If there's like 7 goblins and they wanted 3 goblins, and I have to delete all of them.
That's a pain in the ass.
And the bummer for it is that I can't fill past 9, even if I delete some troops. It's like that's been an issue too. That like I delete it, I'll fill it up to 9, and then like delete something again, and then I can't fill anymore. But this is already a feature.
You can tell it's 2 o'clock in the morning for me now, can't you? Because I legitimately forgot that was a thing.
Yeah, somebody fills your CCs with wall breakers and barbs. Definitely start booting everybody in the clan one by one until you figure out who it is, and then invite back the other people who it wasn't.
I think
leader has that power.
I think that's probably a good indicator that I need to get to bed.
Sounds good.
Yeah, I think that's it. Does anyone have any shout-outs or anything they'd like to mention before we...
I got a shout-out.
Closing statement?
I'm going to put this comment in the chat for anybody who wants to follow my Twitch stream.
Oh, you wanker.
Twitch. It's a twitch.com, twitch.tv.
.tv. Which, while I'm doing that, I'll give you an interesting fact. The fact that
/COC_Lionheart.
Or just talk and you type, you know. But the .tv URL domain is actually owned by Tuvalu, the government of Tuvalu. So every time a website uses .tv, Tuvalu makes money off you using that website domain. So I think it is actually one of their largest sources, the government's largest sources of revenue, the fact that they get lots of money from people using twitch.tv, because actually it doesn't mean TV or anything. It means Tuvalu, because it's their registered domain for their country.
That's hilarious. I also refuse to believe it. I'm going to call my wife after this ends and say goodnight to my kids, and then I'm going to hop on stream for a little bit if anybody wants to hang out and watch some Legends hits.
And while you're doing that, you can Google, is the .tv domain, does it belong to Tuvalu? Yeah. And you will see that it is true. It does. Spencer, do you have any shout-outs or anything you'd like to add?
Nope, I'm good.
Awesome. Well, I don't think I have any shout-outs either. I mean, I want to give a shout-out to Reddit for at least hosting this platform for at least a year. You know, that's quite long for a Reddit feature. So we got to give them a bit of credit. And I want to give a shout-out to every single person who has listened to us live on Reddit. Even Frank's dog was listening to us. I mean, we got a large audience here, right? And hopefully we'll see a lot of familiar faces on Discord. hopefully that can move over smoothly. But it will be a shame not being actually here on Reddit. So yeah, I'd like to give a big shout out to everyone who has been joining us over the last year. Really, it's been going for a long time. So yeah, I think that nicely leads us to the end, to the wrap up of the last ever episode on Reddit. Obviously, you can find this podcast on all your favorite streaming platforms like Spotify, Apple, all the other random ones. We are all on there. If we're not on anything you listen to, please just let us know and we'll try to sort it out. But yeah, hopefully we will see you all in 2 weeks. It's going to be a different place, not a different time though. So we're excited to keep this going, keeping it alive, and we'll see you all in the next episode.